In the Zone, presented by TD.
It's In the Zone, presented by TD. Ben Ennis, Mike Wilner for the it's the penultimate edition of In the Zone, presented by TD. I'm so glad I got to use that expression. It's not used often enough. I feel like you're bringing it back into the lexicon, though.
I'm trying to get it into the mainstream, and for years, people have thought penultimate was like more than ultimate, like that even is a thing. It's like 110%. It is next to last, and it's a beautiful word. As we sit here at Rogers Center doing our penultimate video podcast, the Blue Jays are about to begin their penultimate series of the season against the New York Yankees and the last 7 games of the year, and they have a chance. They have a chance to have a winning record at home this year and to avoid a 90-loss season. If they can manage to go 5-2 on this homestand, it's going to be tough. Then they will achieve if they don't do it, they'll have a losing record for the first time since 2004. So it's been a long time. At home, right. On the road, it's a train wreck.
Yeah, it's not good. I want to talk about Shi Davidi's 3-part story he had on Sportsnet.ca. Great story about Travis Snider. He's been working on it for a couple of weeks. Got a chance to talk to him a little bit earlier in the Jays clubhouse. Great story. A lot of it is enlightening. I mean, the big thing for me was that the Jays offered him a long-term deal, which he declined. And I guess that was prior to this season that they offered it to him, or prior to last season? Are you sure? Okay. Anyways. And it goes into detail about his issues with Cito Gaston, about not playing every day and how that messed with his head. Now he went through mental problems as far as getting himself right as a hitter, not like in his life, but as a hitter he went through mental issues. I mean, it was a great 3-part series by Shi Davidi. What was the most interesting part for you?
You know what? I don't know. I think a lot of it was because I've always been under the impression that Cito Gaston and the way he treated Travis Snider completely ruined him. I didn't realize that it was from like the first second he got to the major leagues, which is crazy. I mean, it's a clash of I don't want to say it's a clash of cultures. It's a clash of mindsets. And Cito very obviously believes that he's going to try to help someone, and if they don't want his help, he's done with them. At least that's the way Travis felt about it. But you know, regardless of how hard-headed Snyder was, of how hard-headed Cito was, there was a duty by whoever, whether it's J.P. Ricciardi or somebody even higher up, to say, look, this is the best offensive prospect we've had since Carlos Delgado. This kid could wind up being a superstar, and we have to do everything we can to make sure he fulfills as much of that potential as possible. And if he doesn't, we know we did everything we possibly could to make sure he did. And the Blue Jays did the exact opposite of that. And it was great to see as part of that series, which is on the same website you're watching this on, so go watch it. Travis brought up that 2-homer game in Minnesota and the fact that he wasn't in the lineup the next day and what that did to him. Now, this is a 21, 22-year-old, and it was April of his second year, maybe his third year, I can't remember.
At the Metrodome, I remember it. He hit one down the hallway.
Yeah, he hit 2 prodigious blasts, and he was hitting .390, and it was 2 weeks into the season. I think he had like 3 or 4 home runs, and then he played 5 of the next 14 days. Because there were lefties, and God forbid Kevin Millar shouldn't be in the lineup, right? And even when I remember this so clearly, that there were games in which a lefty started and a righty came in the 5th inning, but Kevin Millar still finished that game because in Cito Gaston's world, you cannot pinch hit for a veteran with a rookie no matter what. And that, I mean, the sheer hard-headedness of that was just so. You know, and Travis couldn't get out of his own way a lot of the time too. He kept getting hurt, and he wasn't.
That might be his deal as well, getting hurt.
Yeah, that might be his deal. And he's got a bad back, he's got a bad hip, he hurts his wrists all the time. But he's worked hard to get himself into much better shape. But he's had problems in Pittsburgh staying healthy too. The thing is, he wasn't ready to accept the roster machinations, and as much as he told us, I understand, it's business, whatever, he really wasn't processing that. And you can only do so much. If a guy's going to say one thing and think something else and go back and brood, I don't know how much you can do about that. But I really think that, and I hope that a huge lesson is learned on how you develop kids, on how you treat them, on the kind of feedback you want from them, because they had a chance to have a legit middle-of-the-order, Gold Glove defensive guy for a long time as a baby, and they really blew it.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, obviously history will tell us what the deal is with Travis Snider and if he is going to mature into that hitter. And maybe the damage is already done with him, or maybe he is one of those guys that just can't stay healthy, because right now, I mean, both sides. Brad Lincoln hasn't pitched all that well with the Blue Jays, but Travis Snider hasn't looked that great as a bucko, and they're going to finish below 500 again, which is ridiculous. But what, did you have something else you wanted to say on it?
Well, yeah, I mean, the truth lies somewhere in the middle. He doesn't have to wind up being a guy who's always on the DL or a guy who's already ruined. He could still go on and have a wonderful career, and I certainly hope he does, and I think he's got all the talent in the world, and I believe that he will if he can stay healthy. But it may not happen for a couple, 3 years, and because of the situation he's in right now, where he's going to be a camp out of options next year, it may not happen for a couple, 3 organizations as well. So we may be waiting, and in 2017, Travis Snider may bust out, and he's still going to be under 30, and he could still have a great career, and who knows where it's going to be.
Yeah, maybe he's the next Jose Bautista, bouncing around a couple of clubs and finally land somewhere else. And that would make sense if the Pirates let him go. He did that with somebody else. One of his good friends when he was here, Brett Lawrie, a couple of guys who didn't come through the organization. Obviously, Lawrie started with the Brewers, but got to know each other, knew each other very well. Didn't talk about Travis Snider, but for the first time on the video podcast, I think, first of all, nobody has a stronger handshake than Mr. Brett Lawrie, but Mike and I got a chance to catch up with the face of your Blue Jays, Brett Lawrie. Here with Brett Lawrie, and Brett, winding down, final homestand of the season. Obviously, for the team, it was disappointing, and injury is a large factor to yourself included. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you evaluate the season as a whole for yourself?
I mean, you got to look at it perspective as how we came out, and if we would have stuck with what we had for the whole season, and let alone, like you just said, about the injuries that we had, it's tough. I mean, when you got stuff like that that's going on, it's tough to be able just to, all of a sudden add a new piece to the puzzle and have to keep doing that. I mean, we had 3 pitchers go down within a matter of 3 starts within each other, and when that stuff happens, you got to have your guns. If you don't have your guns, it's tough just to throw guys into the mix and say, here we go, let's try and get after it. So, at the same time, it's a disappointment just because, everyone wants to get the postseason. When you don't do that, you don't reach your goals, and, that's obviously a problem, and all these other guys feel the same way. But at the same time, I think we did make some strides in some of the moves that we did make, and, we just got to, try and get healthy for next year and get everyone back.
Is the optimism still there? Because obviously there are mitigating factors in this season. The injuries are a big part of it, and we don't know what's going to happen in the offseason, but moves certainly are going to be made, you would imagine, and starting pitching, Alex Anthopoulos has said, is one of his top priorities. Is the optimism still there? I know going into the season it was so high, but the injuries certainly derailed it. Is it for you, the optimism still there headed into the offseason?
Yeah, I think I don't play GM. It's tough to do that. I just worry about playing baseball, and I let those things happen the way they're going to happen. Alex is going to do whatever he's going to do in the offseason and what he thinks is going to help the ball club, and I'll respect whatever his decision is, and hopefully we can get on a bit of a roll next year and just kind of keep this thing going.
Talking about a bit of a roll, and I think it started to happen late May, maybe early June. You got moved up to the top of the lineup. Colby hit second, and when the 4 of you were in a row, you, Colby, Edwin, or Jose and Edwin, you guys were insane for about 6 weeks. Tell me a little bit about what that was like, and then obviously everybody goes down one at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I mean, when you have your guys, it's good to know that you have Jose and you have some big bats behind you that can back you up, because hopefully you'll see some more fastballs, and hopefully you'll get yourself into some different counts obviously to get on base for those 2 to drive you in. And when you can do that, things are going to work out. I mean, one of them is going to do something throughout the game, Eddie or Jose, so it's just good to be able to get on base for those guys, and obviously help my teammates as best I can too. But after those guys go down, it's hard because pitchers start pitching differently just according to who's coming up in the next couple of bats and stuff like that. So you just kind of got to pick and choose when it's going to happen and when it's not. And I'm still sticking to the top of the lineup, and it'll be good to get obviously Jose back next year when he's completely healthy, and get him back.
And I know Ben talked about the injuries a lot, and I don't mean to push on that too much, but in August, you're out, JP's out, you both miss almost 6 weeks, 7 weeks between you. What was it like for you to look back up here and see that almost every game that month, there were only 3 big leaguers in the lineup, and there was one game where Edwin was the only guy from the opening day roster who played?
Yeah, I mean, that's the grind right there. I mean, that's the stuff you just got to go through, and the stuff you just kind of got to suck it up. I mean, there's not much that, we can do. We can only watch and be obviously spectators, and obviously try and be as good a teammates as we can from afar. But at the same time, you just one of those things you just got to shake your head and just kind of know that you just got to suck it up. Not much you can do. I mean, injuries happen, and you just kind of got to suck it up. I mean, there's no really else to say it. I mean, you can't dwell on it because the game keeps going on and no one's going to stop for you or your team. So everyone's just going to keep going, and it's our job to obviously get in there and try and make things happen.
Brett, obviously you're a proud Canadian, and you were a younger player on that Team Canada World Baseball Classic team when they played here at Rogers Centre. Great success, obviously, in the qualifier. They're through, didn't lose a game. Looking forward to next March. I don't know if you've made it known that you're going to play in that. I'm sure you're going to be requested to play. I mean, are you looking forward to being a part of that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, these things don't come around that often. I mean, it's every 4 years, I think it is, and now that baseball's out of the Olympics, which I've already had a chance to do, it's just a good opportunity for everyone on the team to kind of divide to their own, own clubs and obviously their own countries and stuff like that and represent. And for myself, I know it's cool just to play for Canada and to get to be with all the guys that you don't get to see all the time because obviously everyone's out doing their own thing. Some guys are in the minor leagues, guys are on different teams, different leagues and stuff like that. So when everyone gets together, it's a lot of fun.
Were you paying attention to the qualifier? And obviously, I mean, Canada had to qualify because they didn't win a game, and obviously the disappointment against Italy. But the get through, I mean, the pressure was on because, I mean, once you guys get together in March, you could win the tournament easily. The number of players, Joey Votto, yourself. But I mean, getting in was, I mean, anything could happen in that tournament. How much pressure was on those guys? Can you imagine in Germany?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was just about going out and just worrying about the task at hand, not worrying about it's Germany. I think it's just about going out, getting runs early, and obviously, trying to put up a number of runs to allow the bullpen and our starting pitcher just to do a job. And obviously, the scores dictated themselves, and they did a good job in getting us through. And hopefully, we'll see what happens in March.
Before we let you go, Brett, I want you to take us inside a little bit in the clubhouse, because when a team starts losing, even though there seem to be very good reasons for a team to start losing, people come up with all kinds of theories that they could know nothing about. I mean, I'm around you guys 100 times a year, but I still don't know you guys any better than what you guys show us when we're allowed in the clubhouse. So these theories that the clubhouse is out of control, there's this culture of entitlement and all this stuff, and with the Yanel thing, a lack of leadership. Can you take us inside and tell us what's going on in there from your perspective, what your clubhouse is like? Because back in March, when you were 27-5 in the spring, everyone was talking about how much of a phenomenal clubhouse this was.
I mean, it's obviously different. I mean, obviously losing can change, but I mean, at the same time, I think that our clubhouse has kept a good head. I mean, I feel like everyone's still doing what they've been doing. I mean, we haven't changed anything. Everyone's having fun in there. Even though our record doesn't show, I mean, there's not much we can do about it. We just got to try and finish the season off strong, and there's no reason for anyone in the clubhouse to feel down. Obviously, everyone knows we've had a tough year, and when, you just kind of got to suck that up, and there's no reason for anyone to hang their heads in there. Everyone's trying to play as hard as they can and go out there every night and try and make something happen. And if that doesn't happen that night, then so be it. I mean, there's not much to hang your head about. You just got to we've only got 7 games left, obviously 4 against the Yankees, and everyone wants to have a good series, and obviously hope to do something against them to not, maybe, who knows, allow them and the race towards the playoffs and stuff like that. So whatever we can do just to hopefully try and, I don't know what the word is to do it, but obviously just try and play good baseball against them and try and make something happen.
Yeah, I think for fans here, the Blue Jays winning is number 1, the Yankees losing is number 2. So there you go. Go out and have a great series. Thanks for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Brett Lawrie pounds the Red Bulls, and I think it comes across in his handshakes because I'm still feeling that. I don't know how you feel about handshakes, Mike. You don't want a dead fish, not to go off on a tangent. You don't want to be that guy with the dead fish hand. But Brett Lawrie might be taking it to another level with the hand crushing. I like to be somewhere in the middle.
See, I shook his hand twice today, after the interview and then after we did the little poll afterwards. And I didn't, my hand's fine. So I wonder if he was testing you because he doesn't know you.
Maybe he's like, he wants to assert his dominance over me because I'm more of a threat than you. Like what?
No. I think perhaps what he wants to do is seek out the weak cub in the herd. Do bears travel in herds now? I don't quite know, but I think that's what he wanted. He wanted to assert his dominance over you because he felt as though you were someone who could easily be dominant.
That makes actually a lot more sense. Yeah, gaggle of bears, I think, is what they're called. They were just throwing the football around out here in the outfield as well, which was really cool to see. Anthony Goes probably could have been a quarterback. Oh, he's a little too slight probably to be an NFL quarterback, but he has a heck of an arm. He was throwing spirals about 50 yards downfield. Let's talk about Brett Lawrie's season, because we just heard from him. He's
an awesome segue, by the way.
You don't have to segue into everything. It's okay.
Brett Lawrie was throwing the football too in the outfield.
Oh, is that what I could have said, or is that what I said?
Like,
I don't even know. Anyways, continuing on the video podcast here in the zone presented by TD. Brett Lawrie is not going to hit 10 home runs this season. Is he at 8 or 9? Is he at 9? Okay, he might hit 10. He's going to hit 10. He was injured. That's kind of his deal, but obviously this one was as fluky as it gets, falling into the crevasse at Yankee Stadium. The defense has been there all season long for the most part. And the batting average, 280. His first tour of the major leagues, though, Mike. What do you make of Brett Lawrie as a major leaguer?
I think it's fine. And I know that a lot of people, because for some reason this is the culture of Blue Jay fandom, can't wait to wash their hands of him because they think he's takes things too far energy-wise, makes bonehead plays on the base paths and in the field. And look, this is a 22-year-old in his first season in the major leagues, and I know he set a bar that was so high last year. People were calling me in the spring, you think Brett Laurie's going to have a better year this year? Well, if he's got to have a better year this year than he had last year, he's going to be the unanimous American League MVP because he put up MVP-type numbers last year in 43 games. That was never going to happen. I don't think we expected the power to fall right off. I don't think we expected the walk rate to fall right off, but that's part of the deal of being a young kid on the way up. People don't, and I've said this a million times, and people don't want to hear it, but it remains true. Players don't develop in a straight line, straight upward. When you look at the Blue Jays' young pitchers, they all came up together. The only one who developed in a straight line up was Ricky Romero, and he fell off a cliff this year. Brandon Morrow has been up and down like that. Henderson Alvarez has been up and down. And Brett Lawrie is going to have ups and downs, and that's what's happening right now. I'm surprised that he may not hit double-digit home runs this season. Surprised. I thought he'd set a club record for triples this year, to be honest with you, and I still think he will at some point in the future. I'm surprised at a lot of things that haven't gone right for Brett Lawrie this year, but it's part of the process, and it takes time. And let's not forget he had 2 pretty severe hand injuries last year, although he seemed to manage to overcome them. I think a lot of people expected Brett Lawrie to step on the field and become the greatest player the Blue Jays have ever had. It hasn't happened. It hasn't been close to happening, but he's got another 5 years here, and I can guarantee you that at least 3 of them are going to be phenomenal. All of them are going to be Gold Glove worthy. And, this is a guy who's, again, still just a baby. Travis Snider, we were talking about in the front, when he was 22 years old, it was his second trip down. It was the rosterization where they kept him down in Double-A after he was healthy to save a spot. I think it was the Fred Lewis year. And this is Brett Lawrie playing every day like he should be, top of the lineup like he should be, the things they never did for Snyder, and they're doing all the right things with Lawrie.
And it looks like he's going to play in the World Baseball Classic in March. And remember Vernon Wells' season after he played in that World Baseball Classic. I believe he had one of his best seasons. Maybe not his best season, but he had a good season.
It was the first time he didn't hit 180 in April. He got off to a great start, which was great. And Lawrie is going to be a focal point for Canada in the World Baseball Classic, as opposed to last time where it was only a pinch runner and a defensive replacement in the outfield. And that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Canada in their group in Phoenix. We don't know who else is going to be in it. I imagine the U.S., but yeah, it's going to be one heck of a team.
They need to erect a statue of Jimmy Van Ostrand, I think. I mean, can you imagine if Canada wasn't even in that tournament? I watched a good portion of the qualifier games on Sportsnet, and it was awesome that they were televised. But Jimmy Van Ostrand! How do I get a Van Ostrand jersey?
I'm sure you'll get one. I'm sure he's going to be on the team. He won't be starting probably, but he'll be there. And Adam Lowen, a huge home run, a phenomenal catch. He's going to be on that team. And all these guys. And you asked Brett the question because the big leaguers had to sit back and watch while these guys, who none of them will play a key role on the team, got them in. And had they lost that game, Canada still could have won the World Baseball Classic without qualifying. As like I said on Twitter after they beat Germany in the qualifier final, let's never have to do this again. Please, just win at least one game this time so you don't have to go through this again.
Yes, that's a good plan. How are we doing with the Tom Cheek voting? Because I'm doing my part, voting every day. It's hard because it's 24 hours. Really making it difficult are the people at the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they are, and not giving us any updates. And maybe that's the right way to go so there's no push for people who are trailing late or something? I'd love to know how he was doing. But the voting continues until October 5th at 5 p.m. Eastern. Tom Cheek, again, we look at him every day when we do this podcast. He's right behind us. 4,306 consecutive games from day one here with the Blue Jays until 2004. He left for his father's funeral. That's what the streak stopped for. And then a week later, we found out he had brain cancer. It was unbelievable. And he meant so much to so many, did such a wonderful job. And we owe it to him to do our best every year, even if it feels like we're banging our heads against a wall, which I understand it has felt like lately. Let's make this be the last time we have to do this too. Facebook.com/baseballhall. Like the page, click on 13 Frick voting, and then vote for Tom Cheek. He's right there on the first page. You don't have to do any work at all. You can like the page, send Tom Cheek to Cooperstown, and you will get a reminder every day to cast your vote. Follow @VoteTomCheek on the Twitter, and you'll get daily reminders to vote. There's only a week left, and we really need to push. So please, you're already online now watching this. Just open up another window and go vote for Tom Cheek.
Yeah. Yes, you certainly should. You should also follow Mike on Twitter, @Wilderness590. You can follow me on Twitter as well, @BennisNet. This has been the penultimate edition of this season's In the Zone, presented by TD. We'll see you one more time. We'll see you next week.